Hi everybody, Reaper here. Video number 2 for today. The evidence. This is the evidence that Botler, well, I'm going to say the meat of the evidence that Botler presented, along with a lot of other questions in their 2-hour testimony against CBSA and the shadow contractors used in the ARRIVECAN app. So this is the meat of what they said. It was very interesting. Thank you very much, Larry Brock, for the video. And all Canadians should be disgusted at this. This is our tax dollars, so we should be disgusted. If you're not disgusted, what's wrong with you? Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go.
Botler is a Canadian public safety company focused on misconduct and legal violation detection using artificial intelligence. While Justice and the Legal Aid Directorate were giving us a seat at the table and Botler was going from strength to strength, there was another faction within the Government of Canada that was also noticing us, but for completely different reasons. This small but powerful faction, spearheaded by the Canada Border Services Agency, had identified the perfect rationalization, incentive, and opportunity in Botler. And if you're familiar with it, you might recognize these three as components of the triangle of fraud. My personal profile as a female immigrant entrepreneur who refused to be a victim of sexual misconduct and transformed tripling trauma into something that attracted extensive goodwill from Justice Canada, the public, and media alike, provided the perfect opportunity for an optics operation that could funnel tens of millions of taxpayer dollars. We later learned that this was executed through a set-aside for Indigenous business contract, which is yet another example of the monetization and theft using trauma of marginalized communities. To seal the deal at the Privy Council, this faction used me and our Sacred Citizens Initiative with the Department of Justice as their false flag operation. But they had one fatal flaw in their grand scheme. Botler was there on a mission, which was to prevent, detect, and combat misconduct, and that's exactly what we did. We started submitting reports against this very faction. In response, instead of protecting Canadian taxpayers and their hard-earned dollars, the government machine, including the CBSA, PSPC, TBS, and other individuals, including legal services, mobilized to bury our reports, to obstruct justice, and all in Canada's name. In December 2022, in the same time that President O'Gorman said that they were debating sending our reports to the RCMP, my emails were hacked, and every record of an email that Christian Firth had sent me was mysteriously deleted. And we watched and waited patiently for someone to do the right thing and act on our reports, but instead we were heartbroken as they lied. They lied to us, they lied to you at OGO, they lied to Parliament, and they lied to Canadian taxpayers.
There you have it, folks. Can't be any more plain than that. If you want a more plain answer, you better go somewhere else because holy mackerel, that was pretty cut and dry. So here's the second part, and this is a gentleman that also from Botler that that testified, and here's the meat of his testimony as well. Once again, thank you, Larry Brock, for the videos. And without further ado, let's get into it.
The biggest vulnerability that I would like to draw your attention to is the fact that these contractors are openly engaged in various criminal activities. They openly commit frauds on the government by promising influence and requesting material benefit in exchange. One thing that we have consistently observed with both our justice work and interactions with public safety is that an act of misconduct rarely happens in isolation. It is always almost symptomatic of a larger existence and tolerance of misconduct. Individuals engaged in such conduct are also prime targets of exploitation and extortion. In our interactions with GC Strategies, Mr. Firth routinely boasted that he and his friends, senior government officials with contracting authorities, have dirt on each other, essentially guaranteeing silence through mutually assured destruction. While external contractors are engaged in misconduct and do the actual dirty work, I want to emphasize that their conduct would not be possible without backing from factions within the government. At least in our case, their conduct was fully directed by this faction within the government that we have encountered. Unfortunately, once we began reporting our findings, the government machine mobilized to bury Botler's reports and protect this corruption. The most shocking response we received came from Public Services and Procurement Canada, with the involvement of their legal services. PSPC stated that Canada has determined that no rules were broken. This is while the same allegations were under RCMP investigation. When the government body that has been entrusted with overseeing and spending our tax dollars decides to selectively enforce their own rules, whether willfully or through sheer negligence, this is dangerous. Now, the bigger question is what else PSPC had turned a blind eye to in the expenditure of tens of billions of taxpayer dollars. I have been closely studying and documenting numerous vulnerabilities that we have uncovered in Canada's procurement regime. We have also witnessed these vulnerabilities systematically be exploited by the government officials in the highest level of public service. From our experience, the primary objective of this exploitation is to funnel tax dollars and public funds into private entities that lie outside of public purview. I refer to one such scheme as ghost contracting, which we have observed with Botler and ARRIVECAN, which is the current study of the committee. For ARRIVECAN, GC Strategies was a prime contractor who received significant commissions to then subcontract the work to third-party companies who were the ghost contractors. Based on documents tabled to this committee, GC Strategies claimed that the employees of these ghost contractors were the individual named in the table task authorizations, or TAs. These TAs were used to bill the government. As these ghost contractors are not subject to direct government purview, there is no way to validate that the named individuals actually performed the work, or even they were aware that they've been named on these task authorizations. Also, this is assuming basically that these are real individuals with valid security clearances and not fake profile created for these TAs. In Botler's case, there were 3 levels of contracting. GC Strategies operated as the ghost contractor. Myself and Richika identified personally as subcontractor. Our identities were used without our knowledge or consent by Coradix and Dalian, entities that we have never heard of. Another critical vulnerability that I would like to bring your attention to is the fact that Botler worked on the CBSA project with no contractual or legal agreement in place with the agency or with any of the subcontractors or contractors that were involved. Despite this, we were freely given access to non-public information by the CBSA, and Botler has full legal rights to all information we have collected for this misconduct case. Now, imagine the exposure that Canada would face if a bad actor is legally given access to sensitive information through similar means, and the dangers this would pose to our country.
Well, folks, couldn't get my mic to work there. There you have it. As usual, I'll let you be the judge, but it seems like to me, wherever there's corruption, there's a liberal. Isn't that a neat observation lately? It's just insane. It just seems like day by day there's a different scandal, and the news week isn't a week anymore. It's like a couple days, and then it all changes to a new scandal. I wonder what the next scandal will be. S&C Lavalin, perhaps? The Conservatives still haven't got to ask any questions on that yet, because the Liberals and the NDP won't let them. So they're obviously in on that together somehow. Well, it happened right when the coalition was happening. So I'm sure if there was dirty work afoot, I'm sure it was afoot between the two of them. They're supporting each other. So just my opinion, of course, but and you draw your own. Everybody be free thinkers. I don't want to influence anybody, but it just sort of seems to me, right? Anyway, folks, have a great day, and take care of yourselves and each other. Hi, folks. This is Reaper. This is Stephanie Cusi questioning Ritika Dutt on the Arrive Scam app, and it gives you the names of all the people so that they were interacting with, at least that she can remember. She's going to turn over the rest of it after, but here, I'll just let you listen for yourself. 1 second, I'll cue it up. Get into it.
With him on top of that.
Okay, so in an effort for us to get to the bottom of this, we've asked for the documentation, but we have to get to the who. Who is behind this? Who is behind this within CBSA? Who else might possibly be behind this within the government? So which government officials did you talk to in pursuit of the CBSA contract, just for the pilot itself?
So we were informed by the CBSA that they intended to take this enterprise throughout the government. And in support of that, GC Strategies took us to meetings with various government departments and officials. So I believe you're asking for names.
Please.
There was Philippe Johnston at Transport Canada. There was Mark Briard and Paul Gerard that were at Treasury Board of Canada. There was an individual, I believe his name was Daniel Gaudreau, at the CRA at the time, and then there are some other individuals that I'm not recalling them right now, but I can certainly provide them to you after.
Sure, that would be very helpful. Now, you mentioned that this piece that you were working on was to be used as a pilot and perhaps implemented across other departments as a technical solution for C-56. Were any other departments indicated to you where it might potentially be used if it went well at CBSA?
So it was supposed to be used by the entire government for Bill C-65, and that's why the CBSA wanted to be the ones. They said that they were the pathfinders. They wanted to get the credit for it. So everybody we spoke with was for the same implementation of that same solution that was being found or being identified as a pathfinder by the CBSA.
Okay, so we have names such as Cameron McDonald. Obviously, Mr. Doan was here the other day. The then president, Mr. Ozowski, the now president, Ms. O'Gorman. Were there any other officials at CBSA that you communicated with?
Well, Antonio Utano was the one that I sent the report to, and we were told by Mr. Firth that he does a lot of business with Mr. Utano. There was also the individual I named today, which was Diane Daly, that she stepped in after we submitted the report.
And there's a list of individuals within the CBSA who were engaged with the Botler project one way or another. So Mr. McDonald specifically gave us some names. For example, he mentioned that Pierre Lessard has the values and ethics piece of this task authorization, the individual who's now in charge of the investigation of this file within the CBSA. So there's a long list of individuals who were involved in this pilot.
Was there any mention of a minister or communication with a minister as to a ministerial decision for this pilot project?
For this pilot project specifically, no, but for the enterprise licenses that were the bigger licenses for the Government of Canada, yes.
Okay. Who, please?
It was Deputy Minister Chrystia Freeland.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Were you consistently communicating with Mr. Firth? Was he your only non-governmental contact relative to these contracts or to this contract?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. You mentioned that Mr. Firth brought in Mr. McDonald as well as Mr. Briard. Was there any other party who was involved in these conversations, in the middle person conversation?
Well, for the pilot, no, it was just Mr. Firth. But for the bigger enterprise software, yes, it was an individual by the name of Vaughn Brennan, who Mr. Firth stated that he rubs shoulder with every ADM in town, and he was brought in as a consultant.
Okay, as a consultant.
That is our time, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Ms.
Well, there you have it. There's all the names. Holy man, Chrystia Freeland. Isn't that interesting? That she would be the contact minister. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland. Okay, now we're getting into the meat of the situation here. And yeah, now we know Chrystia Freeland. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, folks, that's the rest of my evidence. Watch the 2-hour testimony of these people because it's well worth it. Every Canadian should watch it and be equally as disgusted as I am by listening to it. For now, I'll sign off and take care of yourselves and each other, and watch your backs against this government, because holy man, I just can't believe this. The corruption is insane. It's just insane. If this doesn't infuriate you, I don't know what will. Anyway, have a great one. We'll see you next video.